Yeah, so you have learned about the three types of data types. We have number, which can be integer or float. You have booleans and strings. These are what we refer to as primitive or basic types in Python. Now in Python, we also have some complex types. These complex types are very useful in building applications. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about lists. We use lists whenever we want to represent a list of objects, like a list of numbers or a list of names. Let me show you. I'm going to declare a variable called cars and set it to a list of cars. So here we add square brackets to represent a list. And now we can add one or more objects inside this list. In this list, we add a bunch of car names. So we have Honda, Cadillac, BMW, BMW, Kia. And if you notice, we separate each list item with a comma. Okay, let's print the cars. And we put in here cars, and we load it, and we can see it right here. And we can also get the individual elements of this list. For example, if we want to get the first element, which is Honda, we type a square bracket, and inside the square bracket, we type an index. The index of the first element in this list is 0. So when we run this program, we will see Honda, which is the first element in this list, printed out. We can see it right there. Now, in Python, we can also use a negative index. This is a feature that doesn't come with other programming languages. So if 0 represents the first element in this list, then what would -1 represent? -1 represents the last element in this list. But don't take my word for it. Let's run the program and see what happens. Yes, you can see it right here, Kia. What do you think -2 would represent? Yes, you guessed it right. It is the second element from the end of the list. So that would be BMW. And we can see that right here. Now we can also change an object in a given index. If we wanted to change the value of the first index to not say Honda, but we want a better car. So we say, oh, we want a Chevrolet. We can do that by calling the variable name that holds this list, which is cars, and we say the index we want it to be on. We want to change, and we say let that, give it an assignment operator right here, and then we say let it be equal to Chevrolet. Let it be equal to Chevrolet. And we go back down here and we print the list. And now we can see Chevrolet has replaced Honda, which was what we started first in this list. We can also select a range of values. For example, let's say we're only interested in the first 3 names. So over here we put a square bracket, we type a square bracket, and here we need to put 2 indexes. We need to put a start index and an end index. Our start index is going to be 0, 1, 2, plus 1, which makes it 3. So we can get these 3 values right here. And when we run it, we can see we get the 3 values. So as we see here, Python gave us the start index, 0, 1, 2, but excluding the last index. And a quick note here, this element here does not modify our original list. it actually returns a new list. And to show you that, let's print our original list right after this expression. Say cars. And here we go. We can see that it's not changed. This is how we use list in Python. Earlier, I told you strings in Python are objects. An object in programming is just like an object in real life, like your remote control, like your bicycle, like your car. They have certain capabilities. So if you type a string here and you put a dot, we can see all the methods that are available for the string objects in Python. Lists are also objects and they have a bunch of methods for adding items, removing items, and so on and so forth. Let me show you. I'm going to declare a list of numbers and set it to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, to add a new element to the end of this list, we can use the append method. And we do that by writing the name of the list, and then we use the append, and then we add 6. Now, let's print our list. And when we run it, we can see it right there. So what if we wanted to add a number to the middle or the beginning of the list? For that, we will use the insert method. And now you can go to view, and right here we see parameter info. This is Control P. So when we're right here, we click Control P. If you're using a Mac, it's Command P. Right here, we can see the value that this method expects. And the first value that this method expects is the index value. The type of this index value must be an integer. Therefore, if I want to add a value to the beginning of this list, put 0 as the beginning index because 0 is the first index. Now, the second value that is highlighted is an object, and that can be t. And what this t means, it can be any type. We can pass a number, we can pass a string, we can pass a boolean, we can pass any type. I'm going to pass 0, and we can see our list has 0 at the beginning of the list. We also have a method for removing items. So let's call remove, and we use Control P to see what we need. Here it says value, the value we want to remove in our string. So let's put 4. I want to remove 4 from here. And we run the program, and we can see our updated list does not have 4 in it. Now, if you want to remove all the items in a list, we call the clear method. And this method does not take any. As you can see, it doesn't show anything. Nothing is highlighted because it doesn't need any parameters or arguments. And we can see here our list is empty. Now, sometimes you actually want to know if a given item exists in our list or not. 2 in numbers. And here, as you can see, we're using the in operator, and we're checking to see if 2 is in the number list. So this is a Boolean expression. And when we run it, you can see we get a Boolean value, which is true. If I put 9, we get a false. Now, finally, there are some times you want to know how many items you have in a list. To do that, you can use the built-in len function. The way we use the len function is we print len of numbers. And we can see 5. And len is a built-in function, just like the print function. That is why it's highlighted as purple. We can see here's purple too. It returns the number of elements in a list. Now we're going to talk about tuples. Tuples are kind of like lists. We use them to store a sequence of objects, but tuples are what we call immutable. which means we cannot change them when we make them. Let me show you. I'm going to start by defining a list of numbers. 2, 4, 6, 8. We use square brackets to define a list, and we use parentheses to define a tuple. We use square brackets to define a list, and we use parentheses to define a tuple. Therefore, this numbers variable is storing a tuple. It's not storing a list anymore. If we try to reassign the second to 10, we get an error. And we can see here, it shows us where the error is. It says line 2 on our main file. And it shows us the error itself, which is us trying to change the value of the tuple. And it shows us tuple. Object does not support item assignment. And this is what I mean when I tell you that tuples are immutable. And also, if you type numbers dot, you don't see any methods like append, insert, and all the methods we had for the list. We only have count and index. Count right here returns the number of occurrence of an element. For example, we put 4 here and we print. You can see it shows up 1. If I add to this tuple another 4, now you can see we get 2. The other method we have here is the index, and the index returns the index of the first occurrence of the element that is placed in it. Now, these other methods that you see with an underscore, they are called magic methods. This is a little bit more advanced than what we're doing right now. Now, practically speaking, most of the time you will be using lists, but there are times where you will need a tuple. And an example is maybe you create a list of objects and you want to make sure that no one can modify that list of objects. This is where a tuple comes in handy. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel and me out. And yeah, see you in the next video.